I already liked Dior Sauvage a lot after I wore it the first time for a full wearing, but then I wore it a second time in cooler weather, and let me tell you, that's what really changed this fragrance the most, was not the fragrance itself, but the temperature. What's up guys, I'm Mike and this is Gypsy Fragrances. If you like an honest, unbiased fragrance opinion, you're in the right spot. Hit that subscribe button, check out my old videos, but in this video here, we're going to be going over my second full wearing of Dior Sauvage Extrait. So when I first wore Dior Sauvage Extrait on opening day a couple weeks ago, it was really hot outside, mid-90s, humid, and it was a hot day. But I wanted to try this out anyway, so I sprayed it on me and I was immediately hit with smoky, woody, just really intense, overwhelmingly so powerful fragrance. But then I wore it a second time in cooler weather and the experience was totally different. So I got to thinking, the first time I wore it, was I just wearing it in the wrong conditions? Even after wearing this in intense heat, humidity, I still came away impressed wearing this because I love the smoky, woody aspects of this. I love that Dior went a different direction with the Extrait here than it had gone with any other fragrance. You know, Elixir, it went its own direction too, but this really went its own direction. It was not like a fresh fragrance that Sauvage had been known for before the Elixir came out. So I was really happy to see they even went further with that and went even further off in a beaten the path from the Elixir, and this was doing its own thing. This just immediately felt more luxurious, more expensive, and it just felt like it was more niche. And I was really happy to see that Sauvage went that direction with this. But let me tell you, the heat, it really amplified everything about this fragrance. It just turned everything up to a volume 10. The wood, the smoke was just at level 10 times 10. It was so powerful. And I think the heat, it just amplified everything way more than I expected it to. Because this is already supposed to be a powerful fragrance as is. Just with the notes it has, you know it's going to be a damn powerhouse. But when you get this thing out in heat, man, it just, it's like nuclear, man. It really did amplify everything and just made it 10 times more powerful than I think it was really supposed to be. And even with all of that, I still liked it. But after wearing this for a second time, I think I came to see my first wearing experience was not Dior Sauvage Extrait at its absolute best. The second time I wore this was in the mid-70s and low humidity as opposed to mid-90s and high humidity like the first time I wore it. The second time I wore this, it almost immediately made Dior Sauvage Extrait feel like it was more controlled. And probably the biggest difference when I first sprayed it that second time for my second wearing was the noticeable immediate ambroxan and lavender, which was something that I was totally missing the first time I wore this. I got instantly hit upside the head with smoke and wood, oud, the first time I wore it in that high heat. It just amplified the wood and the smokiness. But the second time, in lower temperature, the lavender and the ambroxan was in the forefront and was really the star of the show from the beginning. That smoke and that wood was still there, but it felt like it was a little more in the background. It took a little bit of a backseat to the lavender, ambroxan, and a little bit of bergamot that I was getting. And I really don't get much bergamot citrus in this at all, but it is there and you can tell it, but it's not very strong. I really got that lavender and ambroxan there to give it just a little bit of sweet smell, and that really changed the wearing experience of this fragrance. And I really think that's what brought this back to really remind me of the Sauvage DNA. Because that first time I wore this, I really didn't get a whole lot of the Sauvage DNA. It was just really Middle Eastern niche I was getting, and that still is in here, the Middle Eastern oud, wood, and this still does smell niche for a designer fragrance, but it's much more balanced and much more subdued now. But the Sauvage DNA, you can really smell it more when you wear this in colder weather. So how'd the performance do the second time I wore this? And let me tell you, this thing is still beast mode. Ain't nothing changed about the performance on this. It still was strong after 10 hours the second time I wore it in the mid-70s. So the performance is still there. Just because it got colder does not mean the performance started sucking, because this thing is still beast mode. I can still smell it very well 10 hours later with 2 sprays, I might add. 2 sprays, 10 hours, it was still on my face in the mid-70s. when you get this thing into the 20s, 30s, 40s, I think this is going to be a damn 4-star banger of a fragrance, even more so than it is now. This thing's really going to shine in really cold weather, and I'm really looking forward to trying it out in that. But here's a really important part about the second wearing I've had of this. It became much easier to wear. So if you wore this the first time and it was hot outside and this thing was overwhelming and you just didn't like it, you ought to get a second chance with it when the weather is not as hot and it's nice and cool. Because I'm telling you, this was a totally different experience when the weather is not hot. So I'm really looking forward to when it's cold instead of just warm like it is now, because it still ain't cold right now, but 70s is better than 90s. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this does in like 20s, 30s, 40-degree weather. That's when this thing right here is really going to shine. But this is much easier to wear, and that is very evident immediately. And when I tell you I could smell this thing after 10 hours of wearing it, I'm telling you I could smell it easily. It was all around me, but it was not as overwhelming as it was the first time when I wore it in a high heat. It was still there, and I could still smell it very easy, but it was much more subdued and it was much more enjoyable. I still liked it when it was in my face in 90-degree weather. I was still enjoying it. So maybe I'm a psycho or something, I don't know. But it is even more enjoyable in colder weather, but it's still there. It projects, and you can still smell it like crazy. So for me, this second time was a considerably better wearing experience with Dior Sauvage Extrait. I still enjoyed it the first time, but this second time let me know really what this fragrance is all about and what it's really meant for. I had an idea this is what it was meant for anyways, but just wearing it when it was 20 degrees cooler and seeing the difference that made in it, it really let me know that this is meant for colder weather, and this thing is going to be a damn banger in the winter time. So wrapping all this up, the second time I've wore it here was really enjoyable. It was an even better experience than the first time I wore it, and I liked it the first time. Maybe I'm a psycho, but in that high heat, man, I still enjoyed it. Even though it was like a nuclear bomb was going off around me every 5 seconds, I still enjoyed it. But let me tell you, the cooler weather, that's where this is really going to shine. If you wore this when it first came out and you were in hot weather or hot air weather and you tried it and didn't like it, you feel like overwhelmed from it, try it when the weather gets cooler, because I'm pretty sure you'll like it better than you did when it was hot. It's a totally different wearing experience. So yeah, give this a shot again if you wore it in hot weather. Check it out in cooler weather, because I think you'll like it better. I know I did, at least. But yeah, I appreciate y'all watching this. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you've even tried it at all. If you have, let me know what you think about it. It's pretty polarizing. People are either loving it or hating it. I love it. I think it's great. I think Dior went a great direction with this. But yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Check out my older videos. Look out for the new ones coming out. And I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you again on the next one.